What if your thoughts weren't just, fleeting ideas? What if they were more like magnets?
Yeah, like they have an actual pull.
Exactly. And what if the energy you put out somehow shapes what comes back to you? That's the core idea that really stood out from that whole stack of notes and sources you sent us.
It's a fascinating collection, definitely. All centered on this idea that belief um, actively shapes your reality. There's a lot to unpack in there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're digging into the concepts in your sources around what most people call the law of attraction.
Right. But our goal here, based on the material, is to look beyond maybe the purely mystical angle
Mm-hmm.
and focus on what the sources say about mindset, intention, focus, uh, emotional alignment, and really importantly, action, performance.
Yeah, the action part seems key. The definition running through your sources is basically what you focus on, you tend to get more of, good or bad.
But like you said, the material makes it super clear right from the start. It's not passive. It's not just think it and it appears.
Well, no, not at all.
It really emphasizes alignment, getting your thoughts, feelings, and actions all working together. It connects visualization, emotional energy, and even how you filter opportunities.
And there's that quote right near the beginning of the material you shared that just cuts through it all. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are.
Ooh, yeah. That hits differently.
It does, and the sources really try to explore what that actually means, in practice.
So how does this idea actually work day to day? Because it can sound a bit out there. The material gets into some really interesting psychological mechanics.
Right. This is where it clicks, I think. They talk about your brain's reticular activating system, the
Ah,
RAS.
yes, the RAS.
Think of it like your brain's bouncer or filter. It decides what gets your attention based on what you've told it is important, consciously or not.
It's like when you decide you want a specific kind of car, maybe a red convertible,
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you see red convertibles everywhere. They didn't just multiply. Your RAS is now flagged to notice them because you made them relevant.
Exactly. And that connects straight into the idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The sources explain how your beliefs can subtly guide your actions.
So you end up making the belief come true without even realizing it
Yeah,
sometimes.
you act out the script you have in your head.
And then layer on confirmation bias, which is just, our natural tendency to spot things that confirm what we already believe.
And we look for proof that we're right.
Always. So the sources use this great example. Imagine you deeply believe you're unlucky. What happens?
Okay, so your RAS is probably scanning for problems.
Right. You might act more timidly, maybe miss an opportunity because you assume it won't work out anyway.
Yeah.
That's the self-fulfilling part.
And you'll definitely remember every little thing that goes wrong while totally overlooking any wins. Confirmation bias.
Exactly. And this is the crucial pivot in the material, if you actively cultivate a belief that you're capable, that things are looking up,
Okay.
your RAS starts highlighting possibilities. You act with more confidence, which often leads to better outcomes.
Fulfilling that belief instead.
Yes. And you notice the evidence of progress, which reinforces the positive belief. So these psychological things, they offer a concrete way to see how shifting your internal focus can actually change your external experience, according to these sources.
It makes sense when you break it down like that. But understanding the psychology is one thing. The material you sent also includes some really compelling real-life stories.
Yeah, those anecdotes really help illustrate it. They present these individuals as people who kind of lived this focused mindset, like the Jim Carrey story.
Oh yeah, the check. As the material tells it, back in like 87 when he was really struggling.
Way before he was famous.
He wrote himself a check for $10 million, put acting services rendered in the memo.
And dated it for Thanksgiving, 1995, right? Kept it in his wallet.
Yep. And then, incredibly, he gets paid exactly $10 million for Dumb and Dumber.
Which came out in 94, just before his deadline.
Crazy. The sources point to that as like super specific intention plus unwavering belief.
Then there's Oprah Winfrey. The notes mention she talks a lot about visualization, about holding that belief before things happened in her career.
Right, and they share that specific story about the color purple, how she used affirmations, really visualized herself in that role.
Plus the feeling of it long before she even got an audition. According to the material, that was the starting point for her.
And Will Smith, too. Your sources bring him up.
Yeah, his strong belief in energy, mindset, the material suggests he credits a lot of his success to that combination of just knowing he could do it and staying aligned with his purpose, not just talent.
So these stories, as presented in the sources, are there to show these principles in action, basically.
Exactly. Powerful examples.
Okay, so If someone listening, if you wanted to try applying these ideas from the sources, how would you actually do it? They give some practical daily habits, right?
They do. It's not just theory. First up, visualize clearly, daily.
How long? Like,
Just 5, maybe 10 minutes a day. The technique described is picturing your goal as if it's already real.
hmm. And the key thing the material stresses is focusing on the feeling, right? Not just the picture.
Absolutely critical. How does that success actually feel?
Yeah.
Is it joy, relief, confidence? That emotional energy is presented as vital.
Okay, what else?
Next, the sources suggest you affirm the identity, not just the goal.
What's the difference there?
It's subtle but important. So instead of saying, I want more money, you might affirm, I am someone who creates value and attracts abundance.
Ah, so it's about being that person now.
Exactly. Embodying that state of being, which ties into the next point.
Which is,
Act like it's coming, prepare for it. This really counters the idea that it's passive.
right, you can't just sit and visualize.
No, you take practical steps aligned with that future you're building. The example in the sources is great. If you're manifesting, say, a new job,
Mm-hmm.
start learning the skills for it now. Don't wait. Make yourself ready for when the opportunity shows up. You're actively becoming a match for it.
That makes sense. Be ready. And the last habit.
Detach from the timing. This one can be tricky.
Yeah, letting go of the when.
Exactly. The advice is to release the anxiety about when it will happen. Keep your focus on the alignment, the thoughts, feelings, actions, and trust the process.
There's that analogy in the material for this. Something about seeds.
Yeah, it's like planting seeds. You don't dig them up every day to see if they've sprouted. You water them and trust.
I like that.
It fits perfectly. Your job is the planting and watering, the visualizing, feeling, affirming, acting. Trust handles the sprouting. Let go of obsessing over the timeline.
Okay, that's helpful. But it's also really important the material you shared is careful to add some warnings, some nuance. It addresses common misconceptions.
Definitely. Crucial caveats. First, like we've said, they reiterate it is not passive. Action, aligned action, is essential. Can't just wish.
And it doesn't replace action or effort either. It's not a substitute for doing the work.
No, the idea presented is that it aligns your mindset and energy to make your actions more focused, more effective. It enhances effort, doesn't replace it.
Got it. And what about negative emotions? Does it mean you just ignore them?
No, and that's a really key point the sources make. It's not about toxic positivity.
Okay, good.
It acknowledges you need to process pain or difficulty first. Then the practice is about consciously redirecting your focus towards what you want to build. Acknowledge, then redirect.
That feels more balanced. There was another clarifying thought in there too, something about control.
Ah, yes. Attraction isn't control, it's co-creation.
Co-creation, what does that imply?
It shifts the whole frame. It's not about you dictating terms to the universe. It's more like a partnership. You align yourself, your thoughts, feelings, actions to work with life, with circumstances.
So you become more receptive to the opportunities that match what you're putting out there.
Exactly. It's about influence and resonance, not absolute command.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, the main thread through the material you sent is that this law of attraction idea, seen this way, it's less about magic, much more about clarity, belief, and crucially, behavior.
Yeah, it's presented as a framework for understanding how your inner world, your mindset, your emotions really does shape your outer experience. The final analogy sums it up well.
The seed one.
Well, the one that builds on it.
Yeah.
Your thoughts plant the seeds, your emotions water them, and your actions harvest the result.
Ah, right. Thoughts, emotions, actions. All three needed.
It really underscores the active role you play.
It definitely gives you, the listener, a lot to think about regarding the power you have in shaping things, just through focus, belief, and action.
And based on this whole exploration of the material you provided, it leaves you with that really powerful final thought to mull over.
Which is,
The world reflects back who you've decided to become.
wow, okay. A lot to chew on there. Thanks for digging into the stack of sources with us. Really fascinating stuff.